guess everybody's here. That's going to be here. So, moi, moi. Wait, don't leave. No, wait, don't leave. Moi. It's great to see you all here. I've been having a really fantastic time. And now suddenly I'm nervous. I don't know where that came from. I've been having a really fantastic time here in Finland. Your hospitality is above and beyond. So I'm in Finland. And I'm learning all about Finland. I'm learning that you guys gave us Santa Claus. Which, like everything the United States thinks they made Santa Claus. But no, you guys did. No, that's very cool. And that's very cool. Moomies, love those. Alan Wake, and of course Angry Birds. All these great things that came from here. For me, being here is a dream come true. I never thought I'd get a chance to visit Finland. So I'm going to dive in. I want to talk about some stuff today that doesn't really it has a lot to do with who I am. But I wanted to bring something more than just to you about me and my job and what I do and all of that. And we can get into that also. We're going to have time. But I want to get a little philosophical with you, if you don't mind. If you'll forgive me. About halfway, if you start wondering why you should take any advice with me at all, just bear with me. By the time we get to the end, I think it'll make sense. So the invitation to guest at Tracon came as a big surprise to me. It's a great honor. To be here. And it came at a strange juncture in my life. And so it brought with it a sense of responsibility. I knew that I would get this one opportunity to talk to you, and I didn't want to just talk about who I am, but I wanted to actually give you something that you can take with you. Maybe something that I know, may not know, or if you do know it, you may have forgotten it. So I meditated on this. And what occurred to me was this. I'm being given this gift of being here, speaking with you. And I can remind you while I'm here of two things. Your life stream, and that the universe has your back. And these are two things lately that I've been thinking a lot about in my own life. Lately. By universe, that's what I call it. But you may call it something different. It may be God. The angels, Allah, the observer, Doctor Who, whatever you believe in that assists you in your life. So I'm going to start with a question. And I want you to think about this for just a minute, and then I'll wait for you. I want you to keep the answer in your mind as I give this talk that I'm giving. And then we'll come back to it. So the question is, what is your life stream? So think about it. I think everybody has one. Even if they don't realize it yet. They just maybe need to discover it. So get that very clear in your mind what your life stream is. You got it? Everybody got it? Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, I want you to take that dream and kind of imagine it becoming solid. And make it look like that. Okay? That is your life stream now. Forever. You're going to make it look like that. And this little dream character that you just created, is sitting right beside you. Each and every one of you. And it's going to follow you around. For the rest of your life. Because I have a magic wand. Harry Potter magic wand. This is the way it's going to be for you guys from here on out. and this character, your life's dream, your character, are one and the same. Imagine that your life's dream is a friend, a companion, someone who is always right beside you. And while you're doing that, I'll tell you about my life's dream. This is where we get to the boring part. And this amazing universe that we live in. That's me. I was a scrawny little kid. I broke my arm like three times throughout childhood. This particular time was when I fell off a swing set. I was 8 years old. And it was right about this time in my life that my life decided to make itself known to me. It was little back then. Just a baby life. And I don't remember creating it. It just showed up one day. And I let it stay. It was part of who I was. And I was learning about it. Getting to know it, creating it. So I grew up in the state of Illinois, which is right in the middle of the United States, on the Great Plains. Everything's flat there. There's nothing for miles and miles but sky and cornfields. So there's not a lot to spark a young girl's imagination, with one exception. Fireflies. Yeah. Fireflies and books. So you guys have fireflies? Do you guys have fireflies here? Do you get those in the summer, maybe? No. You gotta come see me. We'll go see the fireflies. We'll go see the fireflies. Do ya? Well, see, that's great. Okay, road trip. Right. We all go. We'll go see them. Well, that's. Oh my God. Northern Lights. Fireflies. Compared to fireflies. You guys win. I just had fireflies. So we call them lightning bugs. Where I grew up. And they are magical. Little sparks of fairy light that dance after dark out in the fields and groves. It's really hard not to believe in magic when you see fireflies. One of my favorite things to do when I was a kid was to go out and look at them. We also this sounds terrible and I'm ashamed to admit this, but we would take their little tails off and then we put the sparkly stuff on our skin. And then you would glow in the dark. I know, kids, right? I would never do that today, ever. All right, so I was destined to go to college. Nothing less would satisfy me or my mother. And my life stream followed me to college. Even though I was ignoring it. I went to the University of Illinois to make a career for myself. I just couldn't see which one was best for me. I couldn't see my little life stream following me around. So I started out in journalism. It didn't fit. I studied psychology, but that didn't fit. And I studied teaching, but no, that didn't fit. So I was off course. And now that I'm old, I can look back and see that my life stream me toward literature and language. I thought I was studying French to be a translator, but my life stream had another idea. It wanted me to study great writers. Finally, I found my place in French literature. I studied abroad in Dijon, France, and read the works of the French masters. This was my romantic period, and I began to write creatively, in a real way. I was falling in and out of love. Wine was my water. I was having a great time. And I was so broke. It was dangerous. No money. But I was writing poetry, with great abandon. And it's been my experience in the early days of being a writer. This often comes about at your darkest times of your life, or the times when the most destitute, or the most in love, or the most something, right? Of course, the stories and the poetry that I was writing at that time were terrible. They were awful. But I was exercising my life stream. I came back to the United States, back to reality. I finished my last semester of studies. I graduated. After graduation, I was miserable and depressed. I couldn't find a job in my field. I worked at odd jobs. As a clerk in a drugstore. I worked at a hot dog shop. And I swept floors in a hardware store. Now this is all good honest work. Absolutely do not mean to demean the work. It was not what I wanted to be doing. My life stream felt so out of reach in my life. At that moment, little did I know it was sitting right there beside me the whole time, watching me sweep. Those were dark times, but the universe caught me. A generous friend invited me to live in his spare room until I got back on my feet. So I moved to Virginia, and I went to work at the university library. My life stream was right there beside me, laughing its ass off. As once again I was surrounded by books. It thought was hilarious. So 5 years later, in Virginia, I started my own business. Three friends and I opened a little hobby shop called Fun and Games. This was 1991. In it, we sold comics and games of all kinds, tabletop RPGs, computer games, board games, card games. Did I mention comic books? Too. We sold those too. We rode the road of Magic the Gathering and the death of Superman. It was hard work. Really long hours. But it was good. And I met many wonderful people who are still my friends today. And I was surrounded by books. And now games too. I started writing freelance on the side. I worked for numerous game companies, some who paid well, some who paid sometimes, some who never bothered to get around to it. Mostly, I chose to work for White Wolf on their World of Darkness. Vampire the Masquerade, Changeling, Werewolf, a bunch of others. With game writing, I discovered a financially viable way to have a career in writing. And I found magic and romance in role playing. I learned that when I'm role playing, I can step out of American, maybe, in honor of Tracon. My imagination exploded, mind blown. I fluttered about happily in this mode for about 10 years. Then one day, the time came to move on. I'd fallen out of love, sold Fun and Games, the store, and I had no commitments. I could go anywhere in the world I wanted to go. Sadly, I did not choose Finland. Maybe should have. I chose Seattle. So Seattle was all the way on the other side of the country from where I'd been living in Virginia, which is all the way over there on the right. It's about as far away from Virginia as I could possibly get without going to live with the polar bears in Alaska. Yeah, I wouldn't want to cuddle up with that guy. No. So I drove there in my little Mazda all the way across the country with a car packed full of my belongings, everything I owned in my car, and arrived in July of 1999 on a wing and a prayer. And again, I was broke. I had no money. So I was prepared to live in my car until I could get on my feet. But I didn't have to, because the universe has your back. That's the second of those two things that we're talking about today. An acquaintance from an online game, gotta love the internet, invited me to stay with her until I found a job. Then, 3 months later, I was hired at Wizards of the Coast. Not to write, but to coordinate website translations. My foot was officially in the door, and I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. So what this proved to me, that's my boss, by the way. What that proved to me was that the universe has your back. And this has been regularly proven to me over and over and over throughout my life. As I hit the darkest moments, the universe steps in to rescue me, to save me, to give me
to open a door so that I can progress with my live stream. All right, so a year later, I interviewed and I got a position on the Dungeons and Dragons team, writing, yay, for Forgotten Realms. I'd made it to the big time. I was a writer. My live stream appeared to have come true, but it didn't last. I got laid off in one of Wizards' famous Christmas time layoffs, December 2001, and just like that, I was unemployed again, not writing. But don't despair. Why? Because the universe has your back. Not just mine, but yours too. In 2002, I was hired at Microsoft. This was like maybe 4 months after I had been laid off from Wizards of the Coast. So there was a quick turnaround on these things. Another step up on the food chain. I wrote content for Microsoft Game Studios, their websites, including Xbox.com. It wasn't fiction, but I was still writing for a living. Then 5 years later, in 2007, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Sorry, this is really a gross image, but it's actually very evocative, I think. If you look around at all the women in the room, 1 in 8 will get breast cancer in their lifetime. I'm already taking one of those seats, so somebody else is safe. I could do a whole other presentation on that journey, but what's relevant is that while I was still in treatment for the cancer, Microsoft laid me off. So I was facing being unemployed with no health insurance at one of the most vulnerable times of my life. Before my last week at Microsoft was done, however, I got a call. Bobby Stein, who's the lead writer, or was the lead writer at the time at Arenanet, I'd worked with him at Microsoft. He didn't know I had cancer, and he didn't know I'd been laid off, but he called to ask if I would be interested in interviewing for a writer position at Arenanet. So I interviewed, and I got on at Arenanet, working on Guild Wars 2. And the key takeaway again here is the universe has your back. However, then I proceeded to make a horrible mistake. Actually, this happened before I was hired. It's something that I've never confessed publicly, so you guys get the scoop. You're hearing it first here today. I stood Bobby up for our first interview. I just didn't show. And it wasn't a conscious thing. I just completely forgot I had an interview. I know, right? Oh my God. So he calls me, he's on the phone, and he's like, are you coming? And I'm like, what? He's like, we had an appointment. I'm like, oh my God. And I just pulled an Amelie and just fell into a puddle of water. And he was very kind, and he gave me another chance. So we rescheduled. I think that it was probably because of everything I was going through at that time. I just had so much on my mind, but I really have no excuse. It just flew out of my head. So he gave me a second chance. I took the test that they give new writers, and he hired me. I survived the cancer, by the way. That's important to know. And now it's gone for good. Yay. Yeah, that's brilliant. Because I got a lot of stuff still left to do, trust me. All right, so I was working on Guild Wars 2. For the next 10 years, I was working on Guild Wars 2. Writing stories, creating characters, molding the player experience, doing all the things I love to do. I didn't do any of these things alone. I don't want to pretend that I did. We are a team at Arenanet, and there's a lot of people with a lot of input, a lot of great creative people who are just amazing teammates to work with, and everybody comes together, and the whole thing is just raised up to a whole new level. And anybody who loves Guild Wars 2, that's why. It's because of the teamwork. So Arenanet became my second home. I was in love with my work, I was comfortable, and it lasted a really long time. Once again, I had achieved my life's dream. So I brought some photos to show sort of what it's like to work at Arenanet. I can't show you very intimate ones. Like, there's certain areas of the company that I can't show you. But I'll show you this one. And I have two reasons for showing you this. The first reason is what's happening here. These are all boxed sets, the special edition box sets. And this was when we launched the game initially, Guild Wars 2 initially, the very beginning. And they piled them up like this, and then everybody in the company walked through and signed them. And you can see my signature here in a couple of places. Let's see if I can find it. I'm right there. You can see me there. Can you see my cursor? Oh, okay. Oh, hold on, let me. Okay. So I'm here, and I'm here. I've got a very small version of this. I'm up here. So I started out writing my whole name, Angel Leigh McCoy. And then by the time I got to probably the 100th box, I was down to a heart and angel. And then the next 200, it was like a heart and right? But we signed a lot of boxes. And I have one that I'm going to give away here at Tracon. Yeah. So if you want that, then you have to come out to the tent with me later when we do our thingy in the tent. And you're going to get a raffle number, and then we're going to randomly pick someone to get it. It's not here yet. The mail has it somewhere. I don't know. But the Tracon people have promised me they will arrange, make sure you get it. All right. So, next photo. Remove that. So that's Bobby Stein, the one with the mouth, right in the front and the middle. One of the funniest guys I know. And behind him, those are all writers. And then the guy with the big face here in the front, he's one of the lead character artists. His name is Aaron. And this was at the party, the launch party for Guild Wars 2. We were all having a really good time. We were totally high on launch, right? It was great. So this is a meeting room, one of the meeting rooms at Arenanet, and these are all the writers at one point. The lady in the back, the redhead, on the left with the striped sleeve, she's actually living in Finland now. She's in Helsinki, yes. She is working at Remedy now. So she just moved here, as a matter of fact. Her name is Anna McGill, and so look her up on Facebook. Welcome her to your beautiful country. We were eating brownies made by Bobby's wife, Carol, who is an amazing baker. It's really obscene and probably should be illegal. But we eat a lot at Arenanet. I like to say that in the 10 years that I was there, I probably gained 5 pounds a year. And so all this beautiful me here is Arenanet. It's true. All right. So this was another party. You see all the pink there. The lady who is the second from the right. Okay, the person on the right, that's me. Next to me, that is Malibu Barbie, who runs the annual LA Pink Day in LA. Thank you. I couldn't remember what it was called. The annual Pink Day in LA in support of breast cancer research. And so if you play Guild Wars 2, I would really encourage you to go out and hang out because it's a really fun event. Everybody just gets together and they put their characters in different places so that it makes hearts, and it's really cool. And a lot of times developers will show up. I've been to at least 2 of them, maybe 3. I tried to get there every year when I could. I couldn't always. Last year I was out of the office that day. But this picture, this goofy picture, if you play Guild Wars 2, the lady 3 over, that's Gail. She's got the pink wig on. You guys probably know Gail. She's very, very much the community person for Guild Wars 2. And then the guy on the left with the really wacky pink wig, that's Mike O'Brien. He's the head of Arenanet. He's our leader, even if he does wear a pink wig. And not always just at parties. All right. I think that's all of those. Oh, no, there's one more. Yay. Okay, so this was at, I believe this was at Gamescom. This might have been at Paris. But the lady on the left there, she created Sylvari. Yeah, that's Kristen. She created the look for Sylvari. When we initially made Sylvari, they were very human, elfish looking, the initial design for them. And Kristen fought hard to get them to be more plant-like and less, what's the word? Less normal, I guess? Just to be a little more alien, a little more strangely beautiful all on their own. And she had to work on her own time to do some of these model designs in order to convince everybody that that's the direction we wanted to go. And she was successful because her designs were gorgeous. The guy in the middle with the black shirt, he is now the head of our translation department. So he does all of our localization, handles all of that. He's French, so he was hired from France to come into Arenanet. So we hire lots of foreigners, if anybody's interested. The guy on the right, that's Daniel Dochu, and he does all those amazing concept pieces that you've probably seen for Arenanet, for Guild Wars 2. He's no longer at the company. He left not long ago. Now his son has taken his place, and he is in charge of all of that. And his son, Horia, is an amazing artist as well. It's totally in their genes. All right. I met some great friends, made some amazing friends at Arenanet over the years. Yeah, not that guy. So here we are in 2017. The political climate is something that's breeding insecurity and worry, not just in the United States, but everywhere in the world, I think. I'm not sure anyone is truly comfortable at the moment because there's just too much that could happen and too many unpredictable factors involved. So we recently had a solar eclipse that is symbolic of the political and social eclipse we've been suffering through since the American presidential elections this last year. Never in my 50 years on this earth have I seen so many Americans so vocal about their hatred, so driven by fear. It's been shocking, infuriating, and discouraging. Hope is not lost, however. Many more Americans are speaking out against hatred, and their voices are really strong. And I put this one slide in here today so that I could be one of those voices. The real villain in our world is hate. And I hope that this storm of hatred in America is necessary so we can get rid of it forever. But in this environment of change and uncertainty, the universe has decided once again that it's time for a big change in my life. Arenanet and this is your second gift today. This is not something I've announced anywhere else. So you get the scoop. Arenanet and I have parted ways. I'm very happy to talk about Guild Wars 2 with you, so don't worry. But I dedicated 10 years of my life to them, and it will always be very important to me. The people I worked with will always be important to me. I expect the friends that I made there will be friends for the rest of my life. I have a new mission, though. You reach a certain point in your life when you have a certain level of knowledge and a certain level of confidence, and you don't want to continue being, I try to find a nice way to say this. It's going to come out sounding awful, but I don't mean it awful. You don't want to be somebody else's grunt anymore, right? So I've decided that the time has come for me to start my own game company. I've been working on one. I've been working on one for about 4 years on a game on the side with a team. Is that thing going? No, sorry, it's supposed to do something. Okay, just imagine with me. It does something very cool, okay? The snake up there slides down, and then he goes around, and then the words Games Omniverse appear. This is the logo of my new company. And oh, yay, yeah. You guys have great imaginations. Really like that. All right, so this small indie game company that I've had on the side for 4 years, that's been my evenings and my weekends, it's called Games Omniverse, and we're working on a big idea. Danica Dyer is the main character. It's also sort of the name of the IP. She's a grade school teacher whose last remaining uncle dies, leaving her a cursed mansion and the job of protecting Earth from invaders from other dimensions. We're building our set of products based on 3 pillars. Focus on story. Story, well, you know me, I've been writing Guild Wars 2. Story is critical to me. It's everything to me. So everything we're going to do with this story, it's going to be huge. It's going to be deep and wide and all of that. So we'll have plenty of puzzles and gameplay, but our primary goal is to tell a truly great story. It's going to be an ongoing epic tale. So we're not going to put out one game and call it quits and move on to something else, maybe do racing or something like that. No, that's not going to happen. We're very invested in this entire story for Danica Dyer, and it's going to be ongoing until we're done with it, I guess, but I don't see us being done with it anytime soon. Until you guys are done with it, let's put it that way. It will evolve over time with new releases. So interactive transmedia, what do I mean by that? It means that we plan to tell this huge story across multiple platforms. We're going to have the video game, which is already 4 years in development. It's a puzzle adventure game, 2D, and it's going to have hidden object games in it. It's going to have all kinds of different puzzles, lots of exploration, lots of discovery, and lots of story. We're going to have an alternate reality game, especially in the beginning when we first launch. We want to pull people into the story, get them actually interacting and on a very close level with some of the characters and solving a mystery. We're going to do novels. I'm already about 99% done with a really solid draft of the first novel, and there will be more. And we're going to do a webcomic. So the webcomic is going to be fairly promotional, and it's going to tell the sort of the prologue, I guess, to the video game. It is about 75% done at this point. We've got an amazing artist from New York whose name is Emily Duda. And Emily has really brought Danica to life in her webcomics. She's done a really fantastic job. And so we're really looking forward to having that all done and being able to share it. Okay, this is some screenshots from the game itself. It's not concept art, it actually is part of the game, although it's missing some of the gameplay elements. Obviously the UI is not there. The video game is a 2D puzzle adventure game, which I think I mentioned, in which you explore Dire Mansion, interact with characters, and fight monsters. Here's another room. Heaven knows what's through those doors. Dun, dun, dun. And this is an example of one of our puzzles. And there you can see some of our UI, not all of our UI, but that's how it's sort of coming together right now. All right, and this, oh, can I get this to play? No. So it worked in the room upstairs. So imagine with me that this guy on the right, the shadow man, he leans in and he whispers in Danica's ear, and then he leans back again, and she just looks scared. So we'll introduce strange characters from other dimensions who help or torment Danica. So as you can see, I am still living my live stream. So let's go back to that question I asked you at the beginning, okay? What is your live stream? Do you remember what you thought? Has it changed in the time since I asked? No? Good. You may have noticed that there are several times in my life when it appeared that I had lost my dream, that it was never going to happen. And then there were times when it appeared that I had achieved my dream and I had made it and everything was good. But I hadn't. Not fully, not permanently. Your life's dream is not something you achieve and then it's done. It's something you live. It's something you are. It's important to consciously reconnect with your life's dream from time to time. So keep that little guy next to you. You've got moomies everywhere. You better not forget your life's dream. Here he comes. Now, every time you see a moomie, I want you to remember that your life's dream is your work in progress. Trust your moomie, trust your universe, trust your life's dream. And as another McCoy, my favorite McCoy, once said, "Damn it, Jim, I'm a writer, not a speaker." Okay, maybe he didn't say that, but I would have said that. It is my wish that you all come and talk to me and that you join me on social media. Feel free to contact me. I'm open to answering questions. I can't give secret stuff about upcoming releases or anything like that. But I am always happy to interact, and you shouldn't be embarrassed or, I love talking to people. So thank you for coming to see me. Thank you so much for your hospitality. This is my contact information. Take it home with you. And remember, the universe has your back. Go get your dream. Now, I think we have a lot of time left, right? So I will take questions, or we can talk about stuff if you want to talk politics. I have pretty strong opinions on that. Whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm happy to discuss. My favorite race? I'm really partial to Sylvari. Yeah. My second favorite has to be Asura. Yeah. I have a little Asura. His name is Fufu. And he's the tiniest Asura he can possibly be. And he's really dark-skinned, and he's a thief. So he just runs around and hides in shadows and steals people's skills. It's great.
Jos haluatte kysyä kysymyksiä, meillä on myös mikrofoni täällä ja saa kysyä myös suomeksi, me voidaan kääntää.
Your language is so pretty. English is so ugly.
No, it's not.
You don't think so?
Language is ugly.
Oh, no.
So, how do you manage how do you keep your story when you're writing video game story? How do you keep them, how do you store them, I'm mostly programmer, so I would put version control and sub-version and keep them there, but I don't think that's smart way. So how do you because there's so many different pieces, so how do you manage them all?
It's really hard. It's really hard, that is primarily why a lot of lore conflict will sneak into the game sometimes, because we've got so many different writers, and they come and go over time, and we're not as good at documenting, especially with Living World. Okay, Living World, we are working so hard and so fast to get those releases out. I mean, we're like a big freight train that's just plowing through, right? So documentation takes second place to that, to getting the product out. But we have very smart people, and they have it all in their heads. We do have an internal wiki. We do rely on the public wiki quite a lot, just to fact check. I know, I probably shouldn't admit that. But it's true. It's true. We always get a second fact check on that. But we, oh God, I gotta stop doing that. But we do look at the public wiki just to see what you know. That helps us know what you guys know and what you think happened. So, yeah, it's hard. Guild Wars lore is huge. I don't know if you guys realize how vast the Guild Wars story is. It is just immense, and so many little details. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Moi. Will the alternative reality game be worldwide?
Yeah, I don't see why not. You'll have to speak English. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. But yeah, it'll be available on the internet, and so you can join right in. Absolutely, yay! There's someone over there, Mari.
So the vanilla Guild Wars story was kind of a cheerful, and even though there are Zaytans, zombies reason, and all this stuff, it felt very light-hearted and so on. But going to Heart of Thorns, there came a bit of darker turns and so on. How did you end up changing the tone a little to darker in Guild Wars?
So a lot of it has to do with sort of what the villains do and what animations we give them and how we write the text. And so all of that can add a layer of flavor over what's happening. I know that over the years we've learned a lot about how to tell a story in Guild Wars 2 in a video game. It's a complex thing, and so we've gotten better at dialogue and at keeping to a certain theme and a certain tone for a release. And Heart of Thorns, I think, was probably our showcase for that sort of thing, because we really wanted it to be scary and dark, because we spent so much time building up to that, right, with the whole Sylvari story in season 2. And so we really talked about it in meetings, talked about how, yeah, we want to go dark, don't be goofy, don't do funny little things here and there. We're going to try to avoid that because we really want it. I mean, some of that's in there, but we tried to tone that down and really, part of it too is the story of the main characters was starting to get really dark. With Mordermoth and the Sylvari especially, we absolutely did not want to make what was happening to the Sylvari seem trivial or not have it have repercussions, because players are Sylvari, and we recognize that, and that changes things. There's NPCs that are not players, but if you're doing something that's going to affect players, you have an even greater onus responsibility to do it right and to try to match what players will expect out of that situation in the story. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Let's have the next one.
I actually have 2 short questions. First about Guild Wars 2, because Norn are sort of based on Vikings and Nordic stuff. And to a Finn, then it is kind of funny that there are some NPC Norns who actually have Finnish names. We aren't Vikings, but do you have any idea who's responsible for that? Do you have a Finn on the team?
I can't name any names. I will tell you that it is probably because of some baby naming website that we used to find a cool sort of Scandinavian sounding name. And because we have so many NPCs in the game at this point, we're starting to run out of names. I mean, and we try not to name 2 characters the same. We try to give every single NPC, we're not always successful. But we try to keep them all very unique, and so yeah, that's probably why that happened. I'm sorry.
It's all right. That's what I figured. At least you put my sister in the game by doing that. The other question actually is about Changeling.
About what? I'm
The
sorry.
Changeling for World of Darkness. You wrote some for it,
yeah.
didn't you? What was your favorite kith in the Changeling series? Or
Oh, my favorite keep?
yes, favorite kind of fairy for people who haven't played it.
You know, I have a very special place in my heart for puka and for satyrs. And part of the reason for that is because I wrote the original books for those 2 races, those 2 types of fairies, and so I did a lot of thinking about them and a lot of research, and so I know them better than just about any others. But even that aside, those 2 have always been my favorites to play. I did LARPing for many years, and I used to play a little puka who was just naughty. I had a great time with that.
Do you have other questions? Enempää kysymyksiä?
Hello.
Hi.
I was wondering if you have been in a situation where you have had this great, crazy idea for a story, and then a programmer comes and tells you, no, we are not going to program this, do it again, something less crazy. What would you do, or have you been in that kind of situation?
I cry. Yeah, that actually happens quite often. There's We have technical limitations that we have to work within all the time. We also have art limitations. So sometimes the artists come and say, we can't do that. And so the writers just have to be really flexible and really imaginative. And if we hit a dead end, then we have to find another avenue that we can explore that's just as cool, or maybe cooler. Sometimes it's cooler, quite often. So, yeah, it's understood in the games industry, I guess, that you can't just go wild and tell whatever story you want to tell. In addition to just the technical limitations and the art limitations, there's time limitations. If we had as many years as we possibly want to make a game, to make a release, like a Living World release, then that would be great. Oh my God, I would be in heaven. But we don't. We have X number of months to get it done. And so we just can't go crazy. We have to be very focused and really make sure everything's gonna come together nicely, plan it out really well. The other thing that is a factor that can sometimes limit us is just other opinions on the team. Because not everybody agrees all the time about what we should do or what makes good story or that sort of thing. And so there's compromising that happens, there's brainstorming that happens. So we hit a dead end and somebody says, no, that's really not gonna work. I don't like that. I think we should try to find a different way to do this. And then as a team, we work through it and we try to find something that works for everybody. So, yeah.
So as a writer for these interactive sort of experiences like Dungeons and Dragons and Guild Wars, how do you sort of leverage the fact that you're writing a story that has to be cohesive and sort of everything needs to fit together and the pacing needs to be right, and the fact that the story is going to be experienced by someone who can affect it and sort of mess with it and do kind of unexpected things?
Yeah. It's kind of like surfing in shark-infested waters. You have to really stay on your toes. You have to be constantly vigilant about what you're creating and putting in the game. Because even though you have one experience, the person sitting next to you might have a completely different experience of that same content. And so I guess it's one of the reasons that what I do can't necessarily be done by just anybody off the street, because it takes a certain amount of experience to understand players, and that involves talking to them, right? You have to talk to them, you have to listen to them, you read the forums, you get feedback on content that's already out there, and then that helps you know going forward, how you can build the story. So that, not so that it's a homogeneous experience, but so that it's a positive experience for everybody, even if each player sees it a little differently. It's kind of hard to express exactly how we do that. It's an intuitive thing, I think, to a large extent. It's all about sort of getting a mind meld with players or to the best of our ability. I mean, there's a heck of a lot of you. But yeah, it's definitely something that anybody who does what I do is constantly aware of. Yeah. Did that answer your question? Yeah, good.
So I have two little questions.
Okay.
First is, do you read players' speculations when writing the living stories?
Do you mean, do I read their speculations and then decide what to
or
make
to
the story?
Just to read them?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes the speculations are very cool. And so
I betcha.
it happens, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the speculations are just spot on of what we've already been talking about too. It's like they nail it. And we're like, oh my God, now we can't do that because everybody knows. But we do it anyway because we're on that train I was talking about, so we don't have time to change direction in the middle. But that's part of the fun, right? That's super cool.
That's amazing. And then another one, I totally hope that everyone in this room have played Heart of Thorns through, at least once. So my second question is...
Is this involve spoilers?
A little bit, a little bit.
Anybody not okay with a Heart of Thorns spoiler? Okay, there's a couple people. Can you ask the question in a general way? No?
No.
We don't want to spoil anybody else's
Yeah.
experience. Why don't you come and talk to me privately
Okay,
later?
I'll do.
We'll talk.
Have we got any other questions yet? You can also ask in Finnish if you don't want to.
Do you have any time to actually play or read for fun? And if so, what would you recommend outside of what you're doing for a living?
You mean play Guild Wars too, or play other games? Others? Yeah, I do. Not as much as I would like. Part of the problem is that when you work on a game like I do, you are sitting at your computer for 8, 9 hours a day, sometimes 12, 14 hours a day. And the last thing you want to do when you go home is get back in front of a computer. So it's hard. But occasionally a game will appear that I just have to play. Let's see. It's been a while, actually, since I played a game. Journey. Did you play Journey? I loved that game. Oh my God, that game. I wanted that game to be my boyfriend. That was an amazing game. And let's see, what else have I played recently? Gosh, my mind's blank. But yes, I do try to play. If I don't have time, sometimes I'll be researching another game because I'll have heard about something that they did that was really cool, and I want to learn about that. I'll watch the YouTube videos of playthroughs because I can fast forward those through the grindy moments, and then I get the meat. I get the meat of the story, or I get the meat of the gameplay. It's kind of cheating, I know, but when you work at a game company, you're just up to your eyeballs in your computer all day long, and it's really hard to go home. And at least for me, I can't speak for anybody else. I know some of the guys that I work with, they work all day on the computer, and then they go home and they get on their PS3 and they play until 2 o'clock in the morning. But I can't do that anymore. It might be my age, maybe. Probably not, but yeah. Kenya, yeah.
Okay, hi.
It's hard.
So there's this new expansion, Path of Fire, coming in a few weeks.
Yes.
And I just wanted to know that, have you had your hands in the new story that's coming? The Path of Fire story. Have your hands in it?
Oh, have I written for
Yes.
Path of Fire? Okay. No, I did not actually work on Path of Fire because while that was being developed, we were still doing Living World. We were still full-on Living World, and so most everything I've done is Living World stuff since we started Living World. But I do know how hard everybody has been working on Path of Fire. I mean, they have put their hearts and soul into that release. And so I think you guys are really going to enjoy it when it comes out. I think it's due out on the 22nd, unless that has changed since the last time I talked to people. Yeah. And I see them working. I see them in their meetings with their intense thinking faces on, and writing on the board, and I've seen all of that, and so they're really putting everything into it. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that when you have written the stories and you have had an idea and they have denied it, what has your idea been when they didn't make it to the game? Can you tell us what you wanted to put
the
in?
rejected ideas?
Yeah.
Let's see. So one of the things that I really wanted to pursue that got knocked down was the whole Queen Jenna and knocked down in the past. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but in the past, when it was a story idea that was brought up, was that Queen Jenna would start looking for her heir, her replacement. And so there's actually an object that was introduced in the game back in, I believe, season 2, which was a locket. And the locket was magical, and it supposedly showed the face of the next heir to the throne of Kryda. Of Divinity's Reach. So, Queen Jenna, I just felt that would be a really interesting story. Another thing that I've always really wanted to pursue in Guild Wars 2, and it just hasn't been the right time in the past, is more Norn story. I feel strongly that we have a lot of story to tell there, and really cool story that we can tell with the Norn, and we just haven't been able to, because we have limited amount of things that we can tell in one release. And season 2 was all about the Sylvari. Season 3 was kind of Asura focused in many ways. And season 1, nobody knows what happened in season 1, right? I know, believe me, I feel your pain. But those are 2 examples. Does that answer your question? Yeah?
Let's get the next question.
Hey.
Hi.
So I feel like, at least in the community in Guild Wars 2, there's been this idea of old content versus new content, like old content as in Guild Wars the First, with Kantha, Elona, all those places, and then the new content like Sylvari and the dragons. So you personally, can you say which did you enjoy writing more, or did you only write for the other one, or do you have like an opinion?
Yeah. Sometime before I was actually hired on as a full-time writer at Arenanet, I did some freelance writing for them, working on basically a book of lore that never got published for Guild Wars, the first Guild Wars. But when I was hired on full-time at Arenanet, I was hired specifically to work on Guild Wars 2. And so I came on the project very early on. Reese Osby and Jeff Grubb were the main lore people at that time. And they had already done a lot of the world building, a lot of the race work and story work up to that point. There were a lot of details that still needed filled in and a lot of tweaking that needed to happen. And I was involved in all of that, but I am primarily a Guild Wars 2 writer. I love Guild Wars 1, though. I was a player, so yeah. Is she chasing somebody down?
Yes,
Get 'em.
I am.
Get him.
Hello. Since we asked you a question about your favorite kith, I have to ask a question about Vampire the Masquerade. So, do you have a favorite vampire clan from the Masquerade?
Yes. So Ventru was the one I played most often, and so that is probably my favorite one. I tend to be very organized and kind of business-oriented, personally, and so Ventru made sense to me. But if I wanted to get crazy, I would play Malkavian. Yeah.
Hi. I was wondering if you could give me some advice about indie game companies, since I need to find myself an internship, a company for internship because of my studies pretty soon. around Christmas time, and I was wondering if you could give me an opinion. Do companies abroad also seek for interns from other countries? Or if you could give me any advice, where could I
don't know the
search for this?
details of how it works, especially internationally. I imagine that there are visa problems and things like that that I don't know anything about. But I would encourage you to apply to internships everywhere in other countries as well as here in Finland, because I know for a fact that we have had interns in the past who were from foreign countries at Arenanet. Don't limit yourself. It's very possible that all they need to do is tell the government, yeah, we want her here, she's going to come and intern with us, and they would sort out all the visa stuff for you. I'm not sure about whether they would be paid internships or not. I just don't know the details on that. I haven't been involved in that at all. But yeah, look international, look all over. France has some great game companies. Germany has great game companies. They're all over, and there's more and more going to be popping up. Working with indie companies is a little, I'm not sure I would recommend you go to an indie company, only because by the very nature of it being an indie company, they're a little less stable and a little less well-funded. So I would look first at the bigger companies and just send your resume and send a query letter that says, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm really interested in this, and this is my degree, and I have to do an internship. Can I come and work with you for a while? And see what they say. Yeah, does that help? Okay, good. Good luck. Yeah. Do you know how to look up game companies on the internet? I think Wikipedia has a really long list of them. Yeah, just look up game companies. Google.
I believe we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. No more questions? Yes. This can be our last question.
It's going to be the last one because she's got to run all the way up the stairs.
So we all know that there is a character with a Finnish name in the game, and that's Taimi. And
Taimi, yeah.
Yeah, Taimi.
Yeah, Taimi, yeah.
Why? Why is it
I have
Finnish?
a story. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the story behind that name?
Yes. So I named Taimi. I had a friend, and I guess I kind of knew she had a Finnish name. But Taimi was 95 years old when I met her. My Taimi, not little Taimi. And I met her because I found a purse in the bushes outside my house where I lived. And it was a beautiful little purse, and it was handmade and gorgeous, and it had Taimi's address in it. So I contacted her and I said, hey, I found your purse, I think. And so she told me the story about how, yeah, she had been mugged. Some guy had come up and pushed her and taken her purse, and ick. But what she said to me was, she said, at least he didn't get my cookie. She had a cookie in her purse too. He took the credit card, he took everything else, but he didn't take her cookie, and so she was very happy about that. So Taimi and I became friends, and I would go every couple weeks or so, and we would have dinner. And the year we created Taimi, she passed away. And so I named Taimi after her, sort of in memoriam, because she was this amazing little teeny woman of Finnish heritage who, just sort of did whatever the hell she wanted and didn't you know, answer to anybody, and she didn't care. She lived alone, and she was brave and just wanted that cookie. And I loved her, so that's how Timey got her name. That's the last question, right? Sorry, no more questions.
Yes, I believe our time is running out. Thank you very much, Angel Leigh McCoy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ja muistutetaan vielä, että kello 5 alkaa Guild Wars -miitti Sorsapuiston miittiteltassa. Jos haluatte osallistua arvontaan tai muutama tulla juttelemaan pelistä, tervetuloa kaikki puistossa. Iso miittiteltta kello 5.